again for coming. So maybe we can start with, maybe you can give like a very quick introduction of yourself and also your company. Right, maybe start with William.
Hello. So my name is William Balbine, venture capital investor. With SOSV, we're a global VC with 740 million US under management. As of the second quarter, we're actually the #1 most active VC in the world. It was just timing because we did a lot of investments around COVID. As of now, #2 in US, #2 in rest of world Asia, and #4 in Europe. So we invest in companies in hardware, biotech, food tech, and ag tech, and I run internet and software. So with China Accelerator, we started the first accelerator in China 10 years ago, the first in Asia, and we help companies from around the world enter China. We also help Chinese companies go global. So when we're talking about cross-border, it's very difficult to enter China from the outside. It's also getting harder for Chinese companies to go global, but we specialize in penetrating those barriers.
Thank you. Kieran, please.
Thank you, Dr. Lu Gan. So my name is Kieran Patel, and I'm, as well as being by far the most overdressed person on this panel, I'm Senior Director at the China-Britain Business Council. Now, our organisation exists to facilitate investment and trade between the UK and China. We are a pro-UK, pro-business organisation that works in the best interests of our members and all industries with regards to their engagement with the China market. We are also highly active in facilitating investment from China into the UK, and that will ultimately drive the perspectives that I will give in my answers to addressing today's hard-hitting question.
Okay, so yeah, thanks again. So maybe my first question is really straightforward. Just yes and no. Is the world still open to the China tech?
Yes. It's harder, but yeah, you said yes or no,
okay,
so yes.
We can discuss in more detail later. How about you?
Absolutely.
All right, okay, let's ask the audience. So please, you think yes, raise your hand. Is the world still open?
We have a mix of optimism and pessimism.
It's like half and half, but okay. Well, it's a painful question and also scary question. So maybe we can start with Kieran. You're from UK. So how do you see this? I don't know. Is many Chinese tech companies they are operating in UK right now? What's the role they are playing in UK?
Thank you. I mean, a very good and important question. So over the years, we have seen the footprint of Chinese tech companies grow exponentially in the UK. Also looking towards the UK for setting up European headquarters and developing the market. That ranges from small startups and companies that are embarking on their journey to securing partnerships in the UK. That extends as far as huge consumer electronic companies such as Huawei, of which there has been lots of well-documented news this year, but also consumer electronic companies like Hisense, who have also invested heavily into the UK as well. I mean, ultimately, the perception of the UK is that it is a technology capital for Europe. It's ranked 5th in the Global Innovation Index and has significant expertise in the arena of big data, analytics, and AI. These are all areas with real complementarity for Chinese the Chinese tech industry, and subsequently we have therefore seen that complementarity translate into an ever-growing and increasing footprint in the UK market.
Right. Okay. So really, you are American, right? Are you? No.
Am I what?
You're from States.
Yeah, I'm American.
And the fund is from
We're
States.
an American fund.
So how do you see the lots of change, for Because like in terms of like investment or for like your portfolios, how do you feel? You feel lots of change in the environment?
Okay, so because we're focused on helping mostly two types of companies go out. One's hardware with our HAX platform out of Shenzhen, San Francisco, Xi'an, and Tokyo. And then for China Accelerator, we're helping internet and software companies go out. So for internet and software companies, we're mostly focused on helping the Chinese companies go global to Southeast Asia, South Asia. Now recently it just got a lot harder to go to South Asia because of regulatory changes. But it's not impossible, it's just difficult. And so for hardware, there's usually not too much pushback on be it medical devices or even consumer hardware. Most people around the world don't even know that it's Chinese. So it's made here, designed here, and we're helping them sell globally. So we're not seeing actually that much of a change. Where you're seeing a bit of a change is actually on the investment side. Okay, so before, Chinese investors were investing quite a lot into Silicon Valley companies, startups, about $6 billion a year. That's reduced quite significantly, but that does not affect us because we're helping Chinese startups go global, not Chinese capital to go global. Okay.
But for the Chinese companies, are they getting harder to raise money from Silicon Valley right now?
Chinese companies never really raised that much money from Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley are generally, from the investment side, navel gazers. They just look at what's in front of them. They don't go out. So there used to be a joke that Silicon Valley VCs only invest in a company that they can get to in a car in under 2 hours. Right? So Silicon Valley VCs don't really generally invest outside of Silicon Valley. They never have. Now there's a lot of Silicon Valley branded funds that are in China, but these are China teams, China funds, money from around the world, but it's a local team here, whether it be Sequoia or DCM. So we actually have not seen that much change for China startups at all, except that it's a little bit more difficult to go into markets because of regulatory barriers. For example, with Europe, Europe created GDPR. That's a barrier. It makes it harder to get in. The UK is out now, but yeah. India changed a bunch of regulations. It's much harder to get in. Okay, but for the startups from China, the barriers are not as high.
Yeah, but because SOSV is very active in the global, right? But from the investor perspective, do you see like more, I don't know, like for the fundings from Silicon Valley, are they more less interested in investing Chinese companies because regulation or policies?
We are quite active in investing, and we've actually seen very, very, very little Silicon Valley funding into Chinese companies, period. Before.
Even before?
Yeah, it just didn't happen. I mean, how many leading Asian internet companies are backed by a Silicon Valley-based Silicon Valley fund? This is very, 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 very few. Now, you might hear of big-name VCs investing in Chinese companies, but those funds are based here. Sequoia, Matrix, Lightspeed, it's all China teams. So there might be a challenge down the road because Lightspeed China or Sequoia China might find it difficult to raise funds from US pension funds. But that's a money problem, not a startup problem. And China's got the number 2 largest VC industry in the world in terms of the amount of funds put into companies. It's actually a lot easier for Chinese companies to raise money in China with the recent trend of Chinese startups increasingly going global. Before, China VCs were like, if you're going global, don't talk to me. But now, Chinese VCs are interested in investing in Chinese teams that want to go global. So suddenly, there's a huge amount of capital available. So I'm not trying to be optimistic about the investment side. Investment, yes, a lot harder. But it's not affecting the Chinese startups as far as we can see.
Right, thank you. So Kieran, so you just mentioned, actually there are quite few Chinese tech companies, but like big tech companies, they've been playing a very important role in UK for. But do you see? I think we had a conversation before the panel. We always talk about like tech, the cross-border tech. We all talk about China with States, with Silicon Valley. but there's not that much, about China or the UK. And so do you think why it happened? Or do you see more UK is going to be more and more open to the Chinese tech companies, even for the startups?
Very good question. And I think, again, this probably comes back to how proactive our respective governments and industry have been at actually communicating the collaboration that's happening across our two countries in tech and innovation. I mean, there's certainly a growing demand on the UK's fintech expertise, for example. I mean, we are primarily a service-led economy, and we've been exporting services to China from the very beginning. And that the marrying of technology with our core traditional industries is proving to be where the UK really has a strong offer. And I think as we start to kind of get through what have been a rather turbulent few months overall in terms of the world economy, the optics on the bilateral relationship, which I won't dive too much into this morning, I still feel that, and I believe very much the view is that there's a much stronger story yet to be extracted in UK-China tech collaboration. I think from an academic perspective, from R&D, there are already some extremely well-enriched partnerships that are publicly well-known and well-documented. And yes, I mean, I think that is the challenge that the UK and China, together with concerning tech and innovation, must respond to. It's again fostering the dynamic, the vibrant community of makers, SMEs, and creative talents, and bridging that together through and building connections through culture and business.
So how do you know really how much you're familiar with the UK or EU market? Do you think the Chinese companies, I think they are getting difficulty to go to States, but maybe do you think the EU could be the good destination for the Chinese companies?
Okay, so EU is a lot easier than going to the US right now. Okay. But on the other hand, it's also not one place. It's like many different countries, different languages, slightly different cultures, and the challenges that consumers have across the different EU countries or the UK are not necessarily the same challenges that that consumers have in China. So the success case that everybody wants to now follow is ByteDance with TikTok, and because they are really, really good at growth hacking, and I think they use some personalization using AI, but they're very good at growth hacking. Basically using data to personalize. They managed to have a local solution country by country by country, and as a result have done very well in many countries around the world. So they're using technology to solve a problem, because Chinese entrepreneurs generally believe that everybody around the world should act like Chinese people, and it just doesn't work. That's why WeChat failed miserably when they went out of China. They were spending $120,000 a day on advertising, and they got 300 million users, and 2 years later they went down to 100 million users outside of China. It's a failure. So everybody's like, oh, don't go outside. WeChat failed, you can. But now we have ByteDance. They're using technology to personalize and localize, and so there's more of an acceptance among local investors and local entrepreneurs about that international opportunity. And people in Europe, they have a great deal of money, and it's a pretty, on the consumer side, there's pretty ripe opportunity there.
Right.
I mean, I'll just jump in as well and add further perspective to William's answer. I mean, TikTok have revolutionized social media on a global scale. I mean, we are seeing short-form video and the innovation that has come from China, reach out globally and transform how companies sell products, how individuals communicate to each other through social media as a channel. This is, again, I think comes back to the points that William made around their strategy and how they've been able to embed and localize themselves into key markets. I mean, I think that is the essence of a Chinese tech company going outside of, going external to its own borders and being successful in market. The WeChat example of what possibly didn't quite go so well is also a very rich case study in question.
Yeah, because if you all mention like WeChat or ByteDance, I just really curious because if you look at like Tencent, Alibaba, they've been doing overseas for like quite a few years, but why it's more all of a sudden like starting from last year we talk about like for example talk about ByteDance. Why the global kind of environment, or they are kind of afraid of ByteDance getting so popular in the global market? What's your take? Why ByteDance cause so much troubles or attentions worldwide?
Well, I mean, it's the #1 consumer app in the world, and people love to write about it. Most of the people who read traditional media don't use ByteDance, don't use TikTok, but they're really annoyed by their children using it all the time. They think it's destroying their children's lives. So it's really good if you want to write an article and get people to click on it. Say TikTok is evil, and you get a lot of clicks. So I think there's always a challenge. Many things that you can do in Europe and the US and other markets, when you come to China, it's illegal. Okay? Many things that you do in China, when you go abroad, it's illegal. Now, the challenge for entrepreneurs going cross-border is actually trying to understand what you can do and what you can't do. And you can hire lawyers, and they'll tell you that you can do nothing. Right? So you actually need a guide to help you go cross-border. And so when you go out, privacy is a big deal all around the world, especially in Europe, but increasingly in the US. In China, Robin Li at Baidu said, Chinese people don't care about privacy. He kind of walked it back later, but that's what he said. So there's different concerns. You have to adapt to the local market. You have to follow the local law. And half the time, people don't even know that they're breaking the law when they're breaking the law when they go cross-border. So it's one of the challenges, but I think it's also, for us at least, it's an opportunity because we help those companies navigate China. We also help the companies navigate for Chinese startups when they go out. We also, so product design here is amazing, but what sometimes is challenging is the law. The second thing that's challenging is marketing. How do you sell? And so those are the two main, for both hardware as well as consumer, those are the two major challenges. And then I think the third opportunity, at least for software and internet, is actually the software side. So China has some of the best AI in the world, and those solutions are increasingly being sold B2B, business to business, enterprise. The challenge is that Chinese AI companies generally provide very narrow, they don't provide solutions, they provide very narrow products that solve a particular problem. And so when they go out and sell globally, they need to actually turn that very narrow solution into more of a platform, because people outside are used to buying products, not tech. Whereas in China, people want to use their own product and just slot that tech in. So again, there's an opportunity, but you have to adapt to the local market, whether that be China or outside.
Right. Okay.
Thank you. I mean to come back to the point on the apprehension around TikTok and other social apps. I mean, we're talking, big usage of big data, which is essentially where the main challenge has seeming to emanate from. China has very much led the way in driving change and building an Internet of Things economy, and of course trust when exporting software that holds the personal data of any country's nationals has to be a prime consideration. If anything, trust is at the forefront of all things. So, you know, I mean, for me, really, that is the key challenge that, you know, companies such as TikTok and Chinese tech needs to overcome when moving into new markets. I mean, William, you also referenced the fact that, you know, what is legal in the UK or Europe, for example, is perhaps not so in China, and vice versa. That need to adapt is very important. GDPR in the UK and across Europe also sets further challenges for Chinese tech to successfully integrate in with market opportunities. But, you know, I'm still, and, you know, my organisation that I represent is still very optimistic that, you know, we can work through those challenges.
Right. Okay. But you've been in China for 17 years, right?
Yes. So a very long time.
Right. A very long time. So from China angle, do you see more because of the environment change? Do you see, in terms of like investment from China to UK or broader like to EU, you see, you know, increasing, or is like stay flat or even, you know, decreasing?
Well, I mean, I think foreign direct investment into the UK from China had, you know, until recently been on a very strong upward trajectory. Of course, as I mean, a few years ago, that there were more controls put in place around capital, which provided more of a barrier to state-owned, particularly making their outreach into foreign markets, UK included. But, you know, the UK continues to attract a substantial amount of foreign direct investment from China, and last year in 2019, the actual figure, which escapes me at this moment in time, was equivalent to both that of France and Germany combined. In terms of what is proportion to that in terms of tech, I don't have those figures. However, what I would say is that, you know, we are still seeing a trend that trade and investment continues to be stable even during this particularly challenging year.
Okay. So William, you mentioned about Southeast Asia, right? Do you think, you know, so right now probably we have difficulties in States. So for China companies, if we go abroad, maybe EU could be one option, and Southeast Asia could be the, you know, another options. So so do you have prefer? I think probably prefer Southeast Asia for a China company.
Sure. So, you know, there's not thousands of AI scientists in Southeast Asia, so there's definitely demand there. Okay, it's on the enterprise side. The main focus so far has been consumer. So for Tencent and Alibaba, Tencent invested in a lot of companies, Alibaba invested in many, and actually acquired a bunch, or effectively acquired a bunch of companies. And so the reason why is Southeast Asia has a lot of the same challenges or problems or opportunities that China did 10 years ago. So it's a mobile-first, mobile-only market. So people's first or only experience with the internet is on a smartphone. Which is very similar to China. And when you have like an internet revolution, you see a leapfrog effect. So e-commerce is very popular here because there wasn't a lot of retail stores. Only 2,000 Adidas stores across China. There's not enough stores to sell Adidas shoes to all the Chinese consumers. It's the same in Southeast Asia. I mean, if you go to the big cities, yeah, you see a lot of shopping malls, but there's just not that much retail coverage. And so e-commerce has an opportunity to be, you know, similar to China, not 12 or 15% of all retail sales, but 25, 30%. So the Chinese investors, both VC side as well as, you know, the big internet, Alibaba, Tencent, they've been running a similar playbook in Southeast Asia, South Asia as here. And it's actually been working very, very well. So even in COVID, where, you know, India, one of our startups, like 7 of the 21 people on the team have COVID, but they doubled their users in the last 3 months. even while like a third of the team is sick. 20% of the team is sick at any one time because somebody gets better and then another one gets it. So it's a challenging environment, but you see huge growth, and people here are seeing a main opportunity. Now, you do have to follow the law. Usually in China, when you're small, you can do whatever you want. But as you get bigger, you have to follow the rules. In Southeast Asia and most markets, even if you're small, you generally need to follow the rules. For example, micro loans, P2P finance. It got shut down in China, but a lot of those players then focused on Southeast Asia, South Asia, and then they got shut down in Southeast Asia and South Asia because they did the same things in Southeast Asia that they did here, and they didn't really follow the rules. On the one hand, there's a huge opportunity because there's the problems are the same. The second thing is just capital. I don't know the Southeast Asia numbers, but India, the total VC investment in India in the third quarter was only like $3.5 billion for the 3 months, and half of that was from one investment in one company. Okay, whereas China is like $60-70 billion a year in VC investment. So, like here, you can get $1 or $2 or $3 million with a PowerPoint slide. Whereas in India, and then if you take that product and take that money and take it down south, you can do extremely well because you have a lot more money and you move a lot faster than the local players. And I'll give you some context. Europe combined, including the UK, just a couple of years ago when China was like 60-70 billion in VC, Europe combined was only 12.5 billion in VC. Okay, so it's just there's speed, technology, and then actually a money advantage to going to Southeast Asia and South Asia, and which is why we're focused on helping companies here go there.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I remember like last year when we did our events in Jakarta, like we invited some speakers. So I don't know the speakers, but so I started talking to them, and one speaker said, "Oh, what I'm doing is more like a Lakin in Jakarta, or what I'm doing is more like a Mei Taiwan in Indonesia." So you see, maybe we talk to entrepreneurs. They really like to talk to the China tech ecosystems. But we also see the news is like, for example, lots of apps is banned in India, right? Because some reasons. But do you think that would be like temporary stuff, or you think we're going to see more and more, even in South Asia, to kind of play against the Chinese tech companies?
Well, what you're actually seeing is global tech companies or U.S. tech companies like Google, Facebook, Amazon start to go head-to-head with Chinese companies. So it's the first time where there's direct competition in an open battlefield. Now, it was really fun to watch India until all the Chinese apps got kicked out of the country because they were going head-to-head. But you're seeing that play out across the rest of Southeast Asia now. And oftentimes, it's not a direct competition. It's a Chinese tech and Chinese money behind a local player. And so many of the unicorns that you see are like local companies, but they have help from Chinese investors, they have help from Alibaba and Tencent, and then they have a tech transfer. And the companies down there are more than happy to take that help because it's not just money, it's also knowledge and insight. So famous VCs here, like later stage VCs, GGV or Qiming, right? They've done very well in China, or SIG, who's the first investor in ByteDance. They're extremely active in Southeast Asia, South Asia, because they see similar type opportunities. It's just 10 years later.
Right. So I think we didn't just talk about South Asia. So so the question to you and Kieran is, if you compare UK and States, of course the market is relatively smaller, but it's all like English speaking. But how do you see, if for Chinese tech companies going to UK, what would be the kind of obstacles or difficulties they have to be prepared, or they are facing? So what would be your advice if company go to UK or EU in general?
Sure. No, thanks for the question. I mean, last year, China, imported and exported 1.5 trillion US dollars worth of tech products. I mean, that emphasizes the need for collaboration and investment into international markets in order to truly internationalize. Again, I think coming back to the sort of challenges and barriers that must be overcome, the first is building trust. And again, when we are talking about an Internet of Things, big data, we've seen the Huawei situation this year escalate into a decision that was effectively a U-turn from the UK government on 5G. I mean, we all know, and it's well documented. It comes to a point where, I think the key thing that we really need to work on rebuilding is trust between our two countries around tech. Ultimately, the foundations of this still of a positive future in the sector remain very strong, with the core competencies in innovation, research, and the need that exists between both China and the UK to work together. I mean, as the China-Britain Business Council, we lobby and we work on behalf of UK business. UK business doesn't necessarily share the same view as certain elements of the UK Parliament, and business is pragmatic, and it will always find a way to collaborate and work together. I mean, I'll just I'll read a short message from because this just reached me this morning from a UK company that is engaging with China at the moment through a tech mission that we are putting together. And what he said was, that it's been very obvious from his last 2 days working with the China-Britain Business Council on their digital trade mission, that while the West continues to drag its feet on everything, China continues to power ahead. We've seen we're in Shanghai, we're almost back to normality in terms of business as usual. The economy contracted in the first quarter in China by 3.2%, I think. We are now back to GDP growth. So, businesses such as this one, who have had meetings with CCI, China Unicom, and Tuya have, simply been blown away by the opportunities. And, we are also not seeing apprehension from Chinese companies to engage with opportunities from the UK perspective. So, I mean, I think in terms of overcoming these barriers, it's about, reinforcing that message that, we need to collaborate and work together to address, the future global challenges, and, tech and innovation and collaboration in that sector will be fundamental towards doing that.
Okay. I have 2 questions remains, but we run out of time. But hopefully you can give me the quick answer. But I think it's really important. My first question: do you think the global and China is kind of decoupling in the tech space? So basically, we're going to see 2 kind of ecosystems: global tech ecosystem and Chinese ecosystems in the future. Yes.
Yeah. So just really quickly. I mean, the China was already pretty much decoupled on the tech side. It was separate. So think about it like bubbles. Like the China bubble, and then you had the world bubble. And when you go between the bubbles, you're in a different system. Now the problem that we have, the change is not that like China is like somehow changed. It's about the same. The things that happen is now you have an EU bubble. Now you have an India bubble. And then you have we'll see what happens with the US bubble, right? So now the problem is you have more bubbles, you have more barriers going up. And globalization is not very popular these days. So we help companies go cross-border. So on the one hand, it's harder for us to help our companies go cross-border. On the other hand, there's a lot more demand for our help because it's harder, so you need someone like us to help, make sure you don't break the law and things like that.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I fully agree actually with everything William has said, and I don't have an awful lot to add to that, other than I think what we've seen over the past few months and over a more prolonged period with the trade dispute between the US and China. I mean that is driving China also to want to work more collaboratively with other countries and other bubbles as have sprung up, particularly around in tech. So yes, I mean that does exist and has always existed. But again, where there is need and complementarity, there will always be a drive to break through those obstacles.
Okay, my next one is even kind of shorter. So we see, like in hardware space, we see Huawei is really, really global impact. Software level, maybe TikTok or ByteDance. But because the environment changed so much, do you think we are not going to see the next Huawei in hardware space or next TikTok in the software space from China have the global impact? Do you think yes or we're going to see next, or we are not going to see next? Another one.
Well, I think you're starting. It's a tough question, so I don't actually have an answer for that one. But I think tech and innovation usually finds a way. It's like water, so it's always just going to find the crack, right? And I think that there's the will from the entrepreneurs here. There's also the capital from the investors here, willing to drive it. So I think there's going to be a lot of companies and a lot of entrepreneurs trying. Now the question is, will they succeed? I don't know. But there's a lot more attention going into going global, like Chuhai. There's a lot more money flowing into it. So we'll see what happens.
I mean, for me, it depends on the marketing and the branding to a point as well. I mean, to use an anecdotal point, and I don't usually bring my mum into panel discussions, but my mum is the proud user of a Huawei phone and owner of a Hisense television. She didn't know that the Hisense television was actually a Chinese product until I went home and one time and explained to her that I very recently visited their headquarters in Qingdao, and I was very surprised to see that she'd made this purchasing decision. I mean, I think there is absolutely a room still for Chinese hardware in the UK market, and I think with regards to software, social media apps, and transitioning away from the consumer market to more of a B2B market around systems. I mean, it's a very hard question to answer as to what's going to happen in the future. But who knows? I'm more positive about hardware than I'm about the software side at the moment.
Okay, so just to wrap up, I think at least from us, we are positive. Still open, but it's tougher and it's harder. But the difficulties always means more opportunities, right? So okay, thank you so much to our guests, and also thanks for listening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.